You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
Right, Chris.
Oh, hang on a second. Let me just pop me Viagra. There we go. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye. Hello. I'm back for sloppy seconds. Yes, indeed. We've just had the review show. Now we're on to the debate show. And I could not wish to have sloppy seconds with anybody sexier, more beautiful, more alluring than Craig. And he knows it. He knows it well. But that said, he's not the one that's got his mouth full. It all goes on backstage. I tell you, it all goes on backstage. It's a new day. It's a new lineup. We've no longer got Dave on this show. His restraining order means that I can't have him and Kate on the same show. So we have got Craig joining us in his place. And it was very successful last week when we did it. How are we feeling, everybody? If you, and please do get over to the BBC /LCFC, because you will read my blog today, which is, and I will soon be joined by Kate with her blogs. And I've got to be honest with you, she's got some very nice blogs as well. But they did ask the question, the sports writer did ask the question on the BBC page last night. Leicester wait to see if they are Premier League ready. I wrote back, well, you can read my comments by going onto that page and seeing my blog and let me know whether you agree with me or not. But thank you for joining us. This is LTID TV. We're on from Leicester Till I Die. Thank you for joining us live either on YouTube or Twitch, whichever is your viewing choice of preference. Do join in the chat. Keep it respectful. If you're listening via your favourite podcast platform, we thank you for listening to us as well. And also, if you're watching on catch up, thanks very much. Get your comments on the description below. We do read them all. Some of us ignore them. Some of us like to sort of just react to them. Join in as well on that. But look, this is the debate show. It's back. Oh, look at that. It's the wrong one. How are we all doing, everybody? Craig, welcome along.
Thank you. Stepping into illustrious shoes, no doubt. A little bit cramped because he was only a size 6. But what can I say?
What is it true what they say about shoe size, Kate?
Don't ask me. We're not starting off on that note.
Oh, we are. We definitely are. And can I just say, what I like to say, Craig, that whatever I say, Kate does listen to me as the elder statesman.
I knew you were going to mention this.
What am I going to mention?
The picture.
Yes, yes. I said to her the other day when she did a show with me that the Leicester City picture she's got just behind her left ear was not equal with the picture above it. It was out of sync. And with my OCD, it was annoying me something rotten. So, but I'm glad to see that she's taken my advice. She's healed it and she has put it all now straight. You watch. Next time she's on, it'll be out of sync now just to annoy me.
Yeah, do it.
Every time, like put it upside down or whatever, just to see if you notice the difference. It's going to be like spot the difference.
Well, it could be upside down. I can only just see it with my eyes. We have got a bit of a feeling of university challenge here, haven't we? The way that we're above each other. If I put my foot down really heavy, it's going to end up on Craig's head. But yeah. Well, some would say it's hard to miss, but that I wouldn't be so cruel. I wouldn't be so cruel. But, guys, thanks very much for joining me. It is Let's Talk Leicester. The new time, the new day. Well, new time, same time, new day, 7 p.m. on Tuesdays. We've just done a review show. I don't want to go into too much detail. I did ask you before we came live, are we Premier League ready, Craig? You were there.
I was there. let's say I'm more confident after the second 45 minutes than I was sitting there and watching the first 45 minutes when, to be fair, half of the team might as well have been sitting next to me in the stand for as close as they got to any of the Spurs players. I think they thought they were just watching Leicester play as well. But I mean, let's not kid ourselves that it's going to be anything other than a long, hard slog. But there were encouraging signs, shall we say?
Do you like a long, hard slog, Kate?
Let's just not start on this.
Oh, look, I'm going to say, I mean, for me, I kind of get what you're saying, Craig, but I thought, look, Spurs are going to come out and they're a European team. They were fifth last season, so we're not playing, Forest or Bournemouth, no disrespect to them. They were going to come at us and try and put us in our place. And I just thought it was some good defending.
I mean, there was some good defending. Don't get me wrong. I think all of our back four played pretty well, to be honest. You couldn't say there was a weak link there. What I was disappointed with is how much space we gave them, and particularly how much space we gave them to put balls into the box. I don't know if that's a stat that's caught, but there was far too many balls played into the box, and sooner or later, that's how the goal came. We allowed them to just put crosses in at will, and not only to put a cross in at will, to take their time and pick out a player, which is criminal at that set. One of the first things, if you can keep the ball out of your box, there's less chance of the opposition scoring. It's pretty basic. And I think there was a few who took their time to actually realise that this is the Premier League now. This isn't, you're not playing against Rotherham or Sheff Wednesday or whatever. You haven't got the time on the ball, nor can you give time on the ball. And I think that was a lesson that they needed to learn. And it looked like they got that message rammed down their throats at half time.
Just a quick question, then I'll come to Kate. But who's Will? Sorry.
Is this the level? Kate, obviously, this is the first time I've done one of these debate shows, during the season. I'm not sure that I've really been briefed as to what to expect, but is that the level? Have I already got the level?
That is probably as good as it's going to get.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest with you. I set myself very low standards, and I very rarely managed to get up to them. Let me just put it that way. Kate, look, you were there as well. The thing that impressed me was, yes, all right, it was last minute. I mean, they had 13 corners in the whole bloody match. That shows how good the defending was, because they must have been coming off us, putting our bodies, etc., in the way and getting tackles in. But at least at half time, we seem to sort of have a guy there in the manager's chair that can go in and go, this isn't working to plan.
Yeah, I thought there was definitely some learning on the job that went on yesterday. And it was really good to see a different team come out second half, because we've been so used to just rinse and repeat football from Enzo and just keep going because he believes in the philosophy. Whereas whether it's Steve, whether it's some of the players, he said he likes to kind of run a bit of a democracy from that point of view and have this interaction and no hierarchy within games, that you can sort of be a bit proactive and react in the moment and adjust things accordingly. You would have liked to have seen that maybe a bit earlier in the first half, but I think a lot of the first half is also not just about the step up from the Championship, but it was about the fact that we were nervous. Most of those guys have never played together properly before. We had 2 new recruits starting. Vardy was probably thinking about whatever injury this is, and it was nervy. It was just really, really nervy. We didn't want to mess up. We didn't want to concede early, and that was the reflection in the performance first half. But second half was, it was great to see Cooper's personality come out quite early on, I felt, in the second half there. And he said he wanted to leave some of the decision-making to the players on the pitch and have that flexibility within a framework. And I think that's what happened yesterday. They were all quite disciplined, but you could see each player started to bring their own personality out in the second half.
I think, sorry, Chris, just to touch on that, I think that will have done Cooper a hell of a lot of good as well, to see that he can get a reaction out of the players, whether it's just him, whether it is that democracy, because I still think, you've got quite a few players there who have played under managers who have been at a higher level, shall we say. So people who would class themselves as an elite manager. Even Maresca thinks he's an elite manager already. But the likes of that and Brendan Rodgers, where it's more about the tactical side of the game, whereas Cooper comes across as, yes, there are tactics, but it's more about the attitude and application of what you're going to do. So for him to actually get a message across at half time that is then shown on the pitch, I think will do him a great deal of good. It will raise his level of worth, I guess, amongst the group, that he is worth listening to. I saw Abdul came out afterwards, and when he was asked about what the difference was, and he said it was all down to the coach, which again is great to hear, because I think there is going to be that level of, Cooper's a downgrade. But if he can get that kind of reaction and be honest enough in his post-match interviews to say the first half wasn't good enough. It wasn't like we were feeling our way, this, that and the other. That wasn't the team that I wanted to put out there. So I think it will have done everybody a great deal of good, and the fans, because I was more nervous about the fans' reaction to the game than I was as to what was going to go on the pitch. And the fact that we were pretty much outplayed that first 45 minutes, I was really pleased that the fans stuck with them.
Yes, but Kate, I've forgotten what my question was now. I should have written these down, shouldn't I? I mean, it's nice to have that honesty from a manager, isn't it? It's not the fact that, well, it was too hot and our players were knackered after 10 minutes or the grass was too long. And we know we've had managers that have put out those excuses before. So, A, wasn't it nice to have some honesty? And B, oh, God, my mind is going tonight. This is my first can as well. I can't even blame being drunk here. Leave with that one. See if the other part of the question comes back to me. Was it nice, Kate, to have a manager that was... Oh, that was it. It was being honest. And in fairness, and I know what Craig was saying, but when you look at it, Cooper's the more experienced manager than Maresca is.
Yeah, I think it just goes to show the difference between the two managers. There's egos and there's no egos. With Steve Cooper, he very much believes in being in places on merit and experience and working your way into those roles. And I think, like, just touching on what Dave said, I think there perhaps was a little element of imposter syndrome with Steve, because he said in the Q&A, like, I'm joining them. And there must be that in sport and new jobs across the board, where you go in and you are the newest. And not only is Steve the newest, he's also the guy in charge. So you would get that imposter syndrome. But I got from him in the Q&A that he was an honest guy to the people that matter. I genuinely still believe he will not talk about genuinely who is injured and who is not. And I've heard since listening to some of the radio stuff last night that Steve Cooper is a bit notorious for not being honest about the state of his injuries in his team, which I'm all for, because it's nobody's business until the team shoots out. So it's refreshing to have a guy that's a bit more straight talking, shall we say, and he's just that more straight talking guy. No frills, I call it, I suppose, is the way to describe him. And I think a lot of Leicester people will really associate with that.
And I think he sent them out. He sent them out with more confidence in that second half. Some of the football that we played in that second half, in small patches, but the football leading up to Vardy's chance where he could have made it 2-1, was very reminiscent of Maresca. Well, that one-touch stuff, and you could see the confidence grow. Like where in the first half they would have played a ball backwards, there was a lot more balls being played around the corner and looking for the ball back. So they were being given that confidence to go out and say, you do belong here. So coming back to the question, I think, the Leicester City Premier League ready, I think there's that's a question that is just as relevant to the players as it is to the fans, and I think they will take a lot of heart from their second half performance yesterday.
And let's be honest, Craig, you have different manager styles, and some players will be responding to Cooper better than they responded to Maresca, because they just respond. It's like teachers at school, isn't it? We all work differently and better under certain teachers.
Well, I think so, and sometimes that the instructions from these so-called elite managers or whatever you want to call them, the sort of higher level technicians, shall we say, can be overwhelming for footballers. Notoriously not the brightest people on the planet, footballers. The skills lie in different areas. So you can
when you got people as clever as Wayne Rooney, I don't know what he's trying to say there.
But so you can overload them with information, and they're so worried about where they should be on a pitch that the natural part of being a footballer, that creativity, that having the freedom to go and do what you think is right and react to what's going on in the game, is very often taken away. And we saw that under Maresca last season, where Vestergaard would do the same as Johnny Evans did under Rodgers, would sit there and point to where players should be before they'll release a ball. So being given the freedom to go and play with and adapt to what's going on the pitch, I think a lot of players, as you say, will respond to that more than the over technical elements that they're having to come onto a pitch with.
Okay, do you think Vardy? I mean, look, why don't we just build a statue for him? I mean, the fact that I think if we knew he was going to be playing and he was fit, I certainly would have gone for a different prediction. But just having him on that pitch and having him in that dressing room, I think it would have made a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I said it last week to you. I was still completely dubious that Vardy was unfit, because they did this last season. I think he's training less and less because he saves himself. He keeps his fitness ticking over, and despite the appearance that he gives with his Red Bulls and omelettes, he works his socks off to maintain his body and maintain his fitness. So yeah, it would have been crucial for him to be part of the dressing room last night, and more importantly on the pitch, I think, because that desire that he has, and he must have had it in his mind last night that I need to prove to everybody in the Premier League that I have still got it. I think that was dominating his thoughts yesterday, and who cares whether that's right or wrong or whatever. That's what he did, and that dragged Leicester City as a team along with him, and he absolutely relished it last night. And that kind of attitude's infectious and contagious, and we all loved it. And the shithousery afterwards, where he's giving shit to the Tottenham fans, was just an absolute delight. You can't actually believe that there's no other characters like that in football. It's a bygone age. These footballers become robots and media trained and all sorts. But if I was on the pitch, I'd be doing that. Maybe not as publicly, but Vardy's just doesn't care, does he? He's just superb.
I read a couple of articles today from newspapers, I think the Eye and Telegraph, that was saying how refreshing it was to have Vardy back in the Premier League. That you've got someone, as you say there, that's not necessarily media trained or worried about his social media image, and just plays for the love of the game, and all of that, as you say, that shithousery is part of it. It's part of him. And one of the most pleasing things I saw today was the fact that Vardy is finally getting the credit that I think he deserves.
Yeah,
I think he's been so often overlooked. When you talk about Premier League legends and they create lists of who's the best striker, this, that, and the other, and he's never in a conversation when he should be. Just from where he is on that all-time Premier League goal scorers list, he should have a lot more recognition than he's got. And today, with what went on yesterday and the lack of characters that's around, it almost seems like people have realised just what a good player he has been for Leicester and for the Premier League. And long overdue is the attention and the sort of gratitude and the plaudits that he's getting today.
We certainly need more characters, I mean, we know the likes of Paul Gascoigne and what have you. I mean, you just want that entertainment factor, don't you? Everything was too scared to say anything in case they get attacked by the woke mob. But
I think the fans can recognise that. You get the feeling that if he wasn't playing, he'd be in the stands, giving the opposition and the players crap, because he's probably one of the most people that you can connect with, one of the most affable, likable or unlikable characters that there is in football. And you can imagine that he'd be a great guy to go and have a drink with. Whereas the majority of footballers these days, when it's all image, that you're so disconnected from the modern day footballer, and he's almost like a throwback.
Robbie Savage-esque, Kate, do you think?
What have you just said? No. Nothing like Robbie for me.
Oh no! I mean, look. If you're talking characters,
no, not
who
a
likes
chance.
to wind the opposition up.
I think he's more of a professional than Robbie is in that sense. Actually, I think he's way better at it. Robbie just used to start a brawl, whereas Vardy doesn't do that. Vardy just says his piece, leaves it, and everybody else, all the people that he said it to, are a bit like, we've not got anything to say to that. The Spurs yesterday were just kind of like did a little huddle to huddle around him, and then they stopped. And they were like, "Oh yeah, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's not there to antagonize to make a fight. He's there to antagonize to get into your head." You can only imagine what he's saying off the ball when we're not looking and he's not on the camera. He's probably just at it all game.
I want to ask you both the same question. I'll come to you first, Kate. I'm going to just say how smart. This is the smartest I've seen Kate looking ever on these shows, and I'm glad to say it's nice that you finally made an effort.
Such a cheeky sod. I wish I could say the same. I can't.
No, you can't say the same, but you know what you get. No, but I want look. This was our first under Cooper since the end of last season. The first time that the fans have had a chance to actually see the players. All our games, for whatever reason, have been away, and they've probably been doing something with the pitch, I'm guessing. Do you think that made the players nervous in that first half?
Yeah, I think it was just a melting pot of things. Like you had Bobby and Buonanotte making debuts. That's always pretty nervy. Buonanotte, I don't think had even particularly trained with the team very much. So he is coming in probably feeling like a total alien almost in the team, and he's thrown into the starting 11. You don't know what the crowd are going to be like. Social media, the players are on social media and will have seen some of the stuff. They'd have had to. New manager, players from last year that are very established, such as your Winks, your Vardys, your Indeedys, even your Ricardos. Like, you've got to gel as a team. You don't quite trust all of your teammates yet because you're not sure of their capability. Mads didn't do anybody any favours in that regard in the first 20 minutes with some of his distribution and kicking, like forgetting that he's not in the Championship under Maresca anymore. But he quickly adapted and, made some amazing saves. So there was a lot of nerves and there was a load of reasons for it. And I was just really glad that, we put a performance together. And even despite the result, I was just so pleased that we scored, because scoring just brings that belief that your hard work is good enough. And we did compete. So in answer to the Premier League ready question, we are ready because we competed and we got a draw. We're not the finished article. We're 2 weeks off completing the squad, but we didn't look uncompetitive over the 90 minutes.
Craig?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of nerves, as you say. They are on social media. I would imagine they were unsure how the crowd would react, particularly early on. And one thing that's not been talked about, which could have changed the game totally, is I think it was only about 5 minutes in, that unbelievable clearance from under the bar by Ndidi, which has sort of gone under the radar a little bit in terms of the important elements of the game. But that was massive.
I gave him a 9 out of 10 on the basis of that clearance.
Yeah, just for that, because I don't think he was great apart from that. But yeah, that alone was fantastic. But I was thinking about the question when you posed it: are we Premier League ready? And I think I pulled out the team that started the 20 2014-2015 season.
Yeah.
And whether we would say the same question there, are they Premier League ready? And when you look at that team, so it was Schmeichel, Delat, Konchesky, Liam Moore, Morgan, Cambiasso, Drinkwater, Hammond, Nugent, Ajoa and Vardy. Now, what we know now about some of those players, yes, you know, you would look back and say, yeah, well, look, I mean, look at the players that you've got in there. But at the time, not many of those were walking into any of the Premier League's club, any team in the Premier League. Yet they were moulded into a team, and we know what happened at the end of the season. We know what happened the season after. What I think has happened is the Premier League has got stronger, but I think the level of expectation has changed amongst fans based on what's happened over the last 10 years. If we were talking about having this conversation 10 years ago, there wouldn't be all the talk that there is on social media about, oh, we are, you know, we're going to get hammered, we're going to have the lowest points total ever. I think this has all come from the expectations of what we've done in the past 10 years and the fact that the Premier League's moved on a little bit. So if you take all the emotion out of it, then I think you've got a squad of professional football players who should be able to be competitive in most games. There are going to be games, you know, where you're going to get played around with. Having said that, you know, we had a game last night where we had, 30% possession. Yet, did they damage us? They could have done early on, but we were still competitive. If we'd have lost that game, I'd have still been happy. And that says something about how important the level of performance was over the result.
I mean, Kate, just taking up that point from Craig, I'd got us down for a 3-0 loss last night. That was before, like I said, I knew Vardy was playing. I might have gone 3-1 then, but that wasn't on my expectations from the last 10 years. That was my expectations from the last month of what I saw in the pre-season. I never would have ever put a pound on us putting that sort of performance in after what I'd seen in the pre-season. And I know it's only pre-season, but if we'd have performed like we'd have performed against Lens, we would have been absolutely wiped the floor with.
Yeah, but I think that's where, not just saying for you and your predictions, but I think that's where fans as a whole need to remember the rules. Pre-season doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's actually a chance to try new ideas. The players aren't going to go all out because they don't want to get injured. And it isn't really a demonstration of what's going to happen in the league. It never, ever is. So
No,
you have to ask yourself,
I've said before.
you have to ask yourself, why did you think this time was any different? This is where the fans need to stop. Almost
we
like
always do. What else have we got to go on? You know,
just the fact that you know the players. Apart from a couple of the new signings, you know how the players are going to play. You know Winks is totally dependable. You know Mads has proven himself. You know the back four, I'd have picked Ricardo, but outside of that, the back four is pretty steady. Vestergaard had the season of his life last year. Like, bring some of those common sense things in to try and eclipse some of the pre-season stuff that you see. That's all. Like I never predicted Spurs were going to get 3 past us. I went for a 1-0 Leicester win 87 minutes because the underdog in us, and I knew we'd bring some form of Leicester personality.
Yeah,
because that's what we do.
It does, but we'd got a new leader as well in the new manager. Now, I wanted Cooper, so I'm not sitting here and saying that Cooper was the wrong choice or anything like that. And I have said many times with the pre-season, the thing that this year's pre-season, Craig, I suppose, is the fact that we've been able to watch them on, it was a tenner a pop, but we were able to watch them, and we've never been able to see that many pre-season games like that unless you're at the match, So, and YouTube has probably never been as many channels as there is now. So we've been able to dissect, and I was dissecting those pre-season games like they were league games. And yes, I was saying, well, you can lose all your I'm old enough to know you could lose all your pre-season games and win the league. You could win all your pre-season games and get relegated. But that performance last night, I don't know where it came from.
I think there's been an elevation of perception of how important pre-season is, because it's more accessible than ever. It's talked about more than ever. You know, teams are going off into tournaments all around the world. It's more. 10 years ago, I bet, apart from the fact that we always had tried to get a glamorous home game as part of pre-season, I bet few of us paid very much attention to what was going on pre-season. Really, there was some pre-season game we were playing Exeter or Shrewsbury or whatever, but it didn't come with the level of expectation of how important it is that we have now. And the fact is, it's not that important, because what it is, as you say, it's there to try different formations, different players in different positions, and basically to get match fit. And they're the things that pre-season is for. But it's that elevation and the fact that social media takes everything and puts it under a microscope to the nth degree of individual players' performances in games that mean nothing, that it's elevated much more than it ever has been.
I agree 100% with that. And I mean, I've got a mug up there. I know I've got a mug sat here as well, but a mug up there from the Real Madrid pre-season friendly. But that game wasn't as analysed as much as we have done with the Shrewsbury game this season, because, you know, no social media, no YouTube as such back then. But look, are we reading too much into this, Kate? Because it was 45. I mean, to me, the first half, yeah, on a defensive side, we did everything we could do. 13 corners over the match, I think sums that up. Are we starting to get a little bit too excited? I mean, I was so impressed with that performance, and I feel a lot happier now about the season. Am I getting too excited too soon?
I'm not getting excited. I was actually more relieved last night that we did ourselves a service. We were doing ourselves a disservice the first half, because a lot of it, like Vardy said afterwards, we gave them too much respect. We gave them far too much respect. They don't deserve that. They're not even won any trophies. Of course they don't deserve that. So it's just about applying your strengths in the best way that you can, because man for man, we were much worse in quality, much worse, particularly the first half. But you have to then find different ways and utilize your strengths in a different way to find a way. And I said after the first half, do you know how good Spurs are defensively after that first half? I don't. They could have had me at the back and they would have looked great first half, because no one tested them. They're only humans. They're only 11 humans. So second half, let's actually test and see what they're about. And what were they about? They were about a load of shakiness. That's what they were about. They got rattled really easily. They had one job. We're talking about this today. They had one job, one person they had to watch, that defence. One person they had to watch. We're playing a lone striker with no real other options. And he scored.
And very much.
Belief.
It's a good point.
So I was relieved to see the belief and the tenacity, the Leicester personality. I love being an underdog. I've missed that feeling from last year, where the expectation was high last year. So I think I'm not getting excited. I'm just more relieved that we did ourselves the courtesy of playing to our strengths second half, because that's what we'll need to do.
Barnaby, who was the Spurs fan, Craig, on the preview, said he was worried about his defence. And a top 5 club in Europe next season, that defending when we scored the goal was horrendous. Nobody was picking Vardy up. Vardy had the freedom of the box there, didn't he?
I mean, absolutely shocking. I mean, I can't remember the defender's name, but he walked past him as if he was no one. It was almost like, oh, what's this OAP doing on the pitch? You know, and he just walked straight past him and left him. It was absolutely... Pardon?
Had you run on the pitch then, Craig?
I could have done. But it was absolutely shocking. And what I think is we'll find out much more about what this team has got after next weekend's game away at Fulham, who are a decent team, a decent middle of the road, middle of the table Premier League team who've been there for a few seasons now, are experienced. I think we'll find out our level from the performance next week much more than we will do against Spurs and then Villa to come or whatever. But I remember saying,
sorry, carry on.
I remember saying to Scott in the first half, I think we were about half an hour in or so, and I was saying we're going to find out whether Steve Cooper is a championship level manager or a Premier League level manager by what he does to compensate what's happening in the first half here. Players looked a little bit lost. They weren't putting themselves in the right positions. I thought one of the few players who was poor was Dick over Reed. Didn't really do it for me, and his position was off. So I was so pleased. I said it before. I was so pleased that there was a different side that came out, which showed me that Cooper can identify what's going on and try and do something about it, rather than that arrogance that we've had with the past couple of managers who will just plow ahead and, it's my game plan and I don't have to adapt it. We're going to plow it. We're going to plow on with it. So I was really, really encouraged by that.
But we never showed that desire under Enzo, though, at all.
No, not at all.
I think we'd have lost the game last night with Enzo.
Yeah, because I don't know. He wouldn't have changed anything. If he'd have changed anything, it would have been personnel, but in exactly the same positions. He wouldn't have sent them out with more fire in their belly, to go and prove themselves. There would have been no difference at all. And I think a realist, if you're going to be pragmatic about this season, we're going to have to scrap. We're going to have to scrap. That's what we're going to do, and that's what got us to where we are now. Exactly. That if you go back 10 years, Foxes never quit. That came out of the last 10, 15 years. And that's what we need to get back to, because we haven't got the level of player. We've got some good players. Let's not get away from that. When they relaxed a bit and start to play the football, they look like good players who will get belief from that second half. But we have to go and scrap and fight and work at least as hard as the opposition to get anything out of this season. And next week at Fulham, I think, is a really key one. You've got to back it up. You can't have 45 minutes and then have a go to Fulham and put on what you put on for the first 45 minutes. So I'm really intrigued to see how we perform next week.
Before we just move on from the match, and we'll move on to other topics. Jacoba Reed was taking some stick in the watch along, Kate. I didn't think he was particularly bad. I don't think he was particularly good either. But Nete, for me, he was my man of the match. I mean, to say that he's never played with this team before, to say that hadn't probably trained only a day or so, if at the most, it was like he'd been part of the team for a season. I mean, is he KDH's replacement?
I probably would say Skipp's KDH's replacement, and I think Buonanotte is just that more creative player that we've been looking for. His link-up play with Vardy, like Craig said in the lead-up, to that to Vardy's miss, the link-up play was absolutely brilliant. Like, Buonanotte is just looking for the runner, and he will probably be quite pleased to see that Vardy hopefully can play as many games as possible, but Vardy is always looking for the run, exactly like he used to with Mahrez, exactly like he used to do with Drinkwater. The pass is on, and if the pass is on, he makes it, and he makes it early, and that's why Vardy got in yesterday. So he was absolutely superb. His touch was class. He did a couple of nutmegs on the pitch yesterday. He could turn, he had pace, and he was so tenacious. He was all over the place, and he had that grit and determination, willing to get stuck in and defend. And that's exactly what you want to see from someone who's joining our team. Probably the exact opposite to what we saw when Samare came on, to be honest. That's the chalk and cheese of what you expect to see from a player wearing your shirt. So, yeah, he was brilliant. He was man of the match, but I'm trying not to get too excited about him, because I did that about Tete. And he went wrong.
Craig, was the VAR last night? Because it was actually quite enjoyable watching it. I don't think there was any delays for VAR.
No, I think Vardy's goal was a lot tighter. When I came home and watched it back, Vardy's goal was a lot tighter than I thought it was when I was in the stadium. That's for sure. It hadn't even crossed my mind that may go to VAR, to be honest, because we've had a season without it.
Yeah.
That I didn't think of it at all. But I don't think there were too many contentious decisions. There was a couple of things where people were squealing for penalties, but nothing where you would think would have had to go to VAR. So I mean, that may be the best VAR game we get all season. So let's not think it's going to be.
No.
They're all going to be like that. But yeah, no, it was good to see. It was good. Our natural instinct after a season was the ball's in the net, we celebrate. There was none of that sort of. Well, hang on, this has got to go to VAR. But I was interested. I mean, as I put on the Facebook page where. I can't remember whether it's Dave or whatever chose Vardy as man of the match, and I had Buonanotte as well. A couple of interesting things. One, and I know you probably won't like this. In a lot of ways, he reminded me of Perez.
I said that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought the way.
Sorry. Who reminded you of Perez? Sorry.
Buonanotte.
Oh, right.
It was his kind of tracking back and the way he was putting tackles in and the way he carried himself on the pitch.
Yeah.
I thought he was like a young version of
Perez tracking back.
Perez. Yeah. Yes, Chris. Lose your narrative and just watch what's going on. But he did remind me of that. But the post-match comments by Cooper have got me a little bit confused. Because he was talking about the fact that they were very close to getting a couple of number 10s in last week that fell through, but he's hopeful of getting a number 10 in this week, which makes me wonder where Buonanotte is going to fit in to that, because he looked like he was playing like a 10 for me in that little pocket and had the freedom to do that. But if Cooper thinks he's bringing a number 10 in, that dynamic, I can see Skipp and Winks being a double pivot where Skipp has freedom to get forward a bit more like KDH did. And for me, the one who looks like they may be in danger out of all of that is Ndidi, I think. But yeah, I saw Buonanotte as a 10, so I'm not sure what's going to happen if we get another number 10 in.
I
suppose it's maybe long term if we buy a number 10 rather than Buonanotte as a year-long loan. So yeah.
But you would have thought he's come here not with a promise, but part of it has got to be you're going to play. Yeah.
I don't think Brighton would have let him go if we didn't guarantee him, a certain amount of game time. I mean, they liked him. They've given him an extension before he came to us. But I'm going to ask you both this because, and I think you're getting me mixed up with Brad there with Perez, Craig, to be honest with you. But somebody else that he has already called the new Perez, and that's, we've already mentioned him, Skipp. I, again, funnily enough, having done the preview with the Spurs fan, he was messaging me the next morning as it was happening. And I'm saying, well, he didn't go down very well in the chat and what have you when we were talking. Oh, no, he'll be perfect for you, etc., etc. I mean, looking at his stats and what have you, they have him down as a defensive midfielder. Is it? Do you think he's going to be good for the team? I'll ask you first, Craig, and then Kate, you come in after if you can, please.
I've been really encouraged by the comments from Spurs fans this is a player who just needs some game time. And we are probably the level of where teams like Spurs, it's harder for homegrown players to push through. You're even seeing it. Conor Gallagher had a great season at Palace, went back to Chelsea, had a decent season, but he's the one who's being pushed out the door. Chalobah, another one being pushed out the door. So Skipp and Winks, to a certain extent, were both homegrown players who were never viewed in the same way that expensive foreign signings are. They could play to the same level, but there's almost like the fact that there's an English premium when it comes to transfer fees. There's like an English homegrown downgrade when it comes to how they're viewed and their performances. So I've been really encouraged by what I've read about him in terms of what he'll bring. He sounds like he's very dynamic on the pitch, very aggressive. He doesn't look it off the pitch. So it looks to me like more of an Ndidi replacement who's probably better on the ball, which I think we'd all agree that we need that, because like we did in the first half, you can't keep giving the ball back. You've got to maintain possession and try and build something. So I'm quite encouraged by Skipp. Yeah, he's not the sort of high ranking, the same level of player. If he was coming from a foreign club, we'd probably all get excited about, because we haven't seen them play a lot. But it's almost because we've seen Skipp and he's always been in and out of the team, you think, yeah, well, he can't be that good. But I think he's going to be decent, to be honest.
Kate?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the CV of a modern footballer is exactly what we're looking for in him. He's got Premier League experience. He's done a year in the Championship with Norwich, and he played all season for them, and he got in the Championship Team of the Year that year for them. So he's got that perfect kind of thing on his CV, which we look for. So he's played a lot of football. He's done that. He's done the homework and he's done the groundwork. Sorry, I should say, to step up to the Premier League. And he's obviously at that age, which is perfect, having had that experience, to come and slot right in, really, which is really exciting, because we've always been crying out, I think, for players over the last 10 years, really, that have genuine Premier League experience. Like to Cordova-Reid, some people were talking about his age, but I was like, he's a Premier League experienced player. He's going to know how this all works. And I think, yeah, like if we draw on Harry Winks, you can't believe Spurs let him go, really. I think he's Rolls Royce. When you play in his system and you give him the freedom that he needs, Harry's just Rolls Royce. He's brilliant for us. So I'm hopeful that, yeah, I think we do need a Wilf replacement. It was surprising to see him re-sign a contract, and I think fans forget that is another new signing for us. He was due to leave, but he's nowhere near the player he was, and I don't know why, but his ball skills aren't great. He used to be really industrial and destructive, and that's fallen a yard short. So yeah, we're moving on from that phase of football that we played for a while, and we need somebody who's better on the ball, who can use the transition really quickly to get the ball forwards.
Was that played out of him, do you think, by Brendan in the last couple of years?
I think potentially, and I think injuries haven't helped. He's had some lengthy injuries, and maybe he's just one of those players. I personally think Harry Kane's in the same boat, where they just get old quick, and overnight or over a summer or over one serious injury, you can't get it back. And I know he's only 27, but it's not 22, and he's had some serious injuries. So some players, he does cover a lot of ground. He was all over the shop again last night, but his recovery and ball control was really poor, I thought, compared to what we used to. So we do need something better. We do need something better.
And Craig, the thing is with Skipp, the thing that I liked about it, he wanted to come here. You know, how many, players, I mean, take the guy from Leverkusen, he's literally signing on the dotted line. And for all of those that were blaming Rudkin, for God's sake, wobble your head. The player decided at the last minute, a German team came in for him, so he didn't want to come to us. Somebody actually wanted to come to us, and you can teach them a lot of things. That's what coaches are for. What you can't teach them is wanting to play for your club. Yeah,
and it would have been very easy for Skipp to stay at Spurs. I mean, looking at that team last night, he would have got minutes. He would have been playing in cup games. He would have come off the bench. But he's somebody who wants to play football and sees Leicester as an opportunity to do that. And which is encouraging in its own right. And as Kate said, he's at the ideal age. I think he's 23, but with a lot of experience under his belt already. And now, it's his time to kick on. He must be thinking, this is my opportunity. I'm going to go onto the Premier League stage with a club that have won the Premier League, that have won the Cup. Yes, they're in a bit of a tricky phase at the moment, but I've got an opportunity to show actually what I can do when I've taken out of the bubble of being an academy product.
Kate, let's move on to Casey McAteer. Was being linked with a couple of championship clubs, either on loan or even permanent deal. Signed a new 4-year deal. I mean, I've nothing bad to say about this guy.
No, me neither. I like Casey a lot. I thought his hamstring injury partway through last year really hampered his season, actually. I think we tried to get him back too soon because he was doing so well and we were kind of in need of him a bit, really. And I feel like his performances didn't reach the highs of earlier part of the season in the championship. So I was really keen for him to get a solid pre-season, get fit, get used to running again properly with his sprint, with his hamstring, and hopefully come into the new season looking great. So the fact that he signed an extension is absolutely brilliant. It's brilliant for him. It's your home club. They've got training facilities like they have. And I thought he did really well when he came on last night. He looked like the Casey that we remember from the start of last year. And I think that's Cooper. You know, he came on, he tried to play it forward. He was getting stuck in with tackles. And yeah, again, showing that Leicester personality, which he will know better than anyone, having grown up there. So it's great when you sign one of your own. It's great when you extend the contracts for one of your own. And yeah, I really hope he has a good part to play this year because he deserves it.
Nearly scored with his first touch, Craig.
Nearly scored.
It's funny because I called it. I said to Scott, I said he's going to come on first touch, straight head it in the top corner. Very, very close as well. But I'm
sorry, Craig, have you got the lottery numbers, by the way?
No. I'm a little surprised at the length of the contract, if I'm honest. I'm surprised he's got 4 years. But I think he will be much more useful to the club under Cooper than he would be under Maresca. Because I don't think he's necessarily as technically gifted as some of the other players that we've got, particularly in the wide areas. But what he will give you is work rate. And I think that's going to be more required under a Cooper team than probably a Maresca team. But it also wouldn't surprise me if Cooper gets the players in that he wants, that he doesn't go for at least half a season on loan just to get football week in, week out. Not a full season one, although those sort of half season loans seem to be few and far between these days, where you would just go until Christmas. But if Cooper gets the players in that he wants, it wouldn't surprise me if he goes, and I don't think it would do him any harm to get a run of games under his belt.
Does 4 years surprise you, Kate? 7 goals in 26 outings last season.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
We can sell him and get some good money for him.
Yeah, that was exactly my thinking. The contracts are all so multifaceted these days, and there's a lot of consideration going into them to make the player want to stay, to consider any other offers that are coming in, and also ultimately, if he has the season of his life this year, he could be a potential KDH in the summer. You don't know, and you want a good chunk of money left on his contract to be able to negotiate any potential high transfer fees. So there's so much that goes into the mix with these contracts, and the fact that he won't have had there wouldn't have been a heavy transfer fee to pay for him. You can kind of pay him perhaps a little more than you would otherwise a player with that caliber. So yeah, I'm just really pleased for him. It's great to see a product of the academy, and we need to see more now because Seagrave is starting to tick over the years, and we need to see more products from it, really, including a number 9, hopefully.
I've got a question for you both. Well, that's the whole idea of the show, isn't it? It's not a quiz question, but just throw it out there. I noticed this earlier, and I suppose if you've been watching Sky Sports News, you may well know the answer to this. Chelsea's squad, do you know how many years cumulatively they've got left on their contracts? Have you seen it?
I have.
Yeah. Have you seen it, Craig?
No, I've not. But knowing that they've got about, I think, a squad of about 40 or 44. And if they've got, I guess, what, about 283 years?
Well, no, not
I
quite.
thought you said 200 then.
Oh, right.
Yeah, 191 years remaining on their. I mean, that we're not getting to that ridiculous point yet. And I think was it yourself that posted something on the group about Chelsea players celebrating on the pitch, and there was like 80 of them or something on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Carragher's point yesterday was I don't often, agree with him, but I thought his point yesterday in the post-match after our game was highly relevant, and it was like players need to stop signing for Chelsea.
Yes.
But he was also saying, where do they all get changed? Just things like that.
What's that hot water bill like?
Exactly. I mean, you've got 40 to 44 players who are allegedly in your first team squad. If you're doing 11-11, there's 22. Where are the rest? Who's coaching them? Yeah, exactly. Are you having to have a shift system because they can't all fit in the first team's changing room? So some of them are automatically going to start feeling like, I'm second best if I'm not in that. If I'm not in a group of 20, where am I? Where's my standing? And God knows how long it's going to take Maresca to read through all the statements that are released by the players who are not in a match day squad. I mean, that alone is going to take all his time.
I haven't seen what's yet.
They don't stop, do they? Because Cole Palmer's just signed till 2033.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing?
It's all to do with PSR, isn't it?
But like I said to you, Chris, the rule did come in. You can only spread PSR over 5 years. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
You can offer contracts for 10 if you want, and the player wants to sign it. But for accounting purposes, the maximum is 5 years. So why is Cole Palmer signed for 9 years of his life away?
Chelsea are planning to sign another striker. That was an hour ago on Sky. I saw a bit of the Chelsea Man City game just to enjoy Enzo losing. But I mean, Kieran Dewsbury Hall wasn't a starter. I don't know where Cash is. I didn't see any sign of him whatsoever.
He was in the background, apparently, someone said, not in his kit, like just there.
I think he was working behind the bar.
It was the water boy, wasn't he? But I mean, you only allow 25 players in your named squad. So what are the other 20 players going to do?
Exactly. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's a joke club.
And I noticed the other day that Enzo said, I'm not going to turn this into an Enzo bash because, look, the way he left pissed me off, but I understand him going because it was a better job, and we all do that. But he said the other day, I don't have any say in who leaves the club. Well, hang on a second. When you were at Leicester, did he not? I don't know if either of you can back me up on this. Wasn't he saying he wanted more control over incomings and outgoings?
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, Maresca has just got an ego that's way beyond what he's proven so far. To be honest, I can't blame him for going when Chelsea start throwing their money at you and you're into a huge club. What really gets me is the fact that he said absolutely nothing about us, the club that gave him an opportunity to get him the Chelsea job. And he's come out. If other people have seen something, fair enough. I've not seen him say anything, any word of gratitude about Leicester City, which strikes me as arrogance beyond your ability. So, but you're right. He did. He asked for more transparency and more control over players. Steve Cooper, whether he's lying, I don't know, but he's come out and said that the whole process is super transparent. The communication between everybody at the club is fantastic. Everyone's open about what's going on behind the scenes in terms of transfers. He can't fault it. Now, with that, he could well be, creating a united front so there's less bashing of what's going on behind the scenes. But Maresca wanted all that control. Maresca stopped us going on a lucrative American pre-season thing that would have brought more money into the club. Whether it would have done us good in terms of player preparation, I don't know, but it would have brought more.
He used it as an excuse for Chelsea, though. He used it as an excuse for Chelsea this weekend. He said, "Well, we've just spent 20 days together in America. I'm not sure that was great for the players. We've not long been back."
Because he didn't want to do that, did he? He didn't want to do that. He was the reason that we pulled out of that tournament. Yeah, he said he didn't want to do it, and then the week after he buggered off. So hence we ended up with a hastily arranged trip over to Germany where the facilities weren't great, because he'd vetoed the trip to America, saying that he didn't want that to happen, and then buggered off.
Right. I mean, I've just been if you saw me staring at another screen here, I was just watching. They've just put the quick transfer analysis up on the Sky Sports transfer page, and I was just seeing what was saying about Leicester. It's just the fact that Cooper is saying what he said last night. He wants more attacking options. Kate, who do you want to see coming in? Been really, and we can't get Messi or Ronaldo, but. Although that would be Rudkin's fault if we don't. But who sensibly would you like to see come in?
I don't know, really. I mean, a lot of these players that come in, I've never either heard of or would nowhere near my radar. So I genuinely hope I think we were saying at the game last night, there's loads of these players about, like Hudson-Odoi, Loftus-Cheek, and Skipp, like players that have come through the system are actually good players, but for whatever reason just haven't been played because they haven't been deemed to be worth the risk to transfer into the starting 11 over someone else or the 25-man squad. So I would love to see us poach someone like that, where it's a really good pedigree, they're young, their experience. So that's the kind of caliber that I'd like to see. But in terms of personnel, I don't really know who's available, but we definitely need someone to help Vardy out, because Daka's bloody useless anyway, in or out of the boot. I'm not a fan of him. And Cannon, I'm just starting to believe my own conviction that he's crocked, and permanently so, and not worth the risk. Or there's an issue with why he's not moving to Leicester properly permanently. There's an issue that Tom will know what it is, and it's probably not directly football related. It's either an injury that's not going to get better, or it's something to do with the guy's personality that just isn't right. So we need someone to help Vardy out, whatever that may be. Maybe Lukaku. He's on the out list, isn't he?
Yes. I think I don't have Daka, to be honest with you. Actually, that's a good point that Kate's raised there, Craig, about Tom Cannon. If Vardy hadn't been ready, you know that he wouldn't have started. It would have probably been Mavididi.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. There's a couple of players that I wouldn't mind us going to, but just before that, on Cannon, I think most fans would like to see Cannon get some pitch time, but there is a caveat with that, in that two managers have had ample opportunities to play him and haven't. So, which makes me think, as you say, Kate, there's something else going on. Either he's just not doing it in training, he doesn't show the right attitude in training, or there's some niggly thing going on, or he doesn't want to be. There's something going on, the fact that two managers have had opportunities to play him and they haven't. If it's one, you face sometimes doesn't fit. When a new guy comes in and you're still not getting the opportunities, there's something else going on. As for who I'd like to see come in, it's interesting that Brighton again are throwing some money around. 40 million for Rutter. I'm shocked at. And as an aside, I think that was the deal that scuppered our move for that Hosleck from Leverkusen, because it gave Hoffenheim the money, because they're getting a cut of the money that Brighton are getting. Gave them the money to go and get Hosleck. But Ferguson at Brighton seems to be getting pushed down. Now, I know he's had a few injury issues, but I don't think he got on the pitch at the weekend. They bought Rutter as well, but he looked like he was going to be a really exciting prospect. So whether you could pick up someone on loan like that, which means you keep your money in your pocket, or from the little bit of research that I did, I do like of the Greek guy that we were linked with a couple of weeks back, and we allegedly put a bid in for, according to John Percy, who's usually pretty good on this. That Fotis I need. He looks a player, to be honest. He looks like he's got all the attributes. He's big, physical, I'm not going to say he's got a great touch for a big man because, we're on a cliche watch. But he does look like he's got an eye for goal. He's good in the air. He scores with both feet. He looks an exciting prospect for me if we can get him. There was talk that all fits into the narrative of why we haven't got him yet if we've put a bid in. One is, I think Sporting Lisbon are sniffing around, but that depends on whether there's another player that they get or another player goes out.
They're just about to sell somebody, Sporting Lisbon.
Than we put on the table, but also they want to keep him while they've got a Europa Conference League playoff. So they're prepared to sell him, but they want to get into the Conference League and they want to keep him for the playoff game they've got because they got knocked out by Ajax on penalties. I don't know if anybody saw this, but Panathinaikos and Ajax went to penalties in their Europa League game. And each team ended up taking 17 penalties in that shootout, which is absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, I like the look of him. He looks like someone who could be Premier League ready for me.
Interesting.
I brought that back to your question, Chris.
You did.
Premier League ready.
And I love the way that you are freezing like you're looking like you're about to sneeze.
I thought it was you, to be honest. I thought you'd frozen. I thought you'd glitched again. But I realised
Craig.
Your sound was going as well, and no, it was, I don't know whether you caught what I said. Sorry, I'm laughing at just the way that these are sticking. But Sporting, I forgot who it was now, are about to sell a player. So if they're about to sell a player, I'm guessing A, they'll have a space free, and B, they'll have a bit of money to spend.
Yeah, potentially. So, I'm sure, if you chose between the East Midlands or Lisbon, it's going to be a tough call.
Well, it would be if you're Victoria Beckham. Yeah.
Which is true.
Just around, I mean, I'm just looking here at some of the other stories in the Mercury. That showed me.
Are you scrolling through? That must be why you're glitching.
I'm scrolling through. James Maddison, was he given a nice welcome back?
He was. He was by the majority. There was a few that booed him in the corner, but in general terms, I think he was well received. He got a good round of applause, and it was nice to. I don't know if the cameras picked it up, but he went round the ground after the game and sort of applauded everyone because he'd not really been given an opportunity to say goodbye, I guess. And he looked genuine in it. I know he's a social media boy, but he did look genuine in him clapping the fans as he went round, and he got a pretty good reception, I thought.
Kate, what was his? I'm just reading on here what James Maddison did in Spurs celebration to show Leicester City respect.
I don't know.
Did you not know? Did you
was
see?
Too busy expleting at that time.
Did he not celebrate?
If he didn't celebrate, I'm not down with that. It's flipping ridiculous. I don't know. I don't know what he did. But no, I thought it was very respectful. I think before kickoff as well, when he kind of walked over to our side, which is where he stood for the kickoff, and he was clapping the fans our side.
Are you down that side? Yeah.
It says here, City. Maddison said City will always be special to him, and that perhaps showed in his celebrations for Tottenham's goal. Pedro Porro met Maddison cross the head in the opener, and the Spanish fullback wanted to join the England international in his trademark dart throwing celebration. However, Maddison appeared to decline and high-fived his teammate instead. I get that, and it's very nice of him, but look, he's a Tottenham player now.
Yeah, and also, I think he only does his dart celebration when he's scored, so don't nick his celebration.
Yeah, I was going to say the same, yeah.
And it has been over a year now, hasn't it? Come on.
Yeah, but that's his celebration and he didn't score, so that's what I read into that. But yeah, I really like Maddison. I've always been keen on Maddison. The only thing that breaks my heart about it is I didn't get to see him link up with Winks, because I think it would have just been so smooth sailing with those two down the spine of the team. It would have been brilliant. But yeah, I've got no gripes with Maddison at all. I think he's really nice human. He does a lot for charity. And he's always very, very respectful. And he's one of the best players to listen to on interviews. You feel like you learn a bit when you listen to him.
Oh, sorry, let me put that one back up for you, Craig. You just put your glasses on.
Yeah, when you flash something up, I think I'll try and read it. Yeah.
You just stop looking at me flashing. That's all I'm saying. Craig Shakespeare, yeah, there's a bit of a nice. I mean, Nigel Pearson was there. Steve Walsh, the not the player, was there.
Leslie was there.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
I mean, was there a Tifo as well?
Yeah, there was a little Tifo from UFS or whatever.
But so
I think Birch, after Birch sort of said his bit, Birch walked off the pitch with 2 balls under his arms.
Yeah.
Which was nice.
He will be missed. He was a great asset to the club, you know.
And a really nice few words I saw from Ranieri today about him as well.
Well, he's always class, Ranieri, isn't he? You know. That's one I'm going to leave you with then. Chilwell's not getting a look in at Chelsea.
Yeah, he's on his way. He's been told, hasn't he, in no uncertain terms, that he's I think he's number 41 on the 44 players. So he's not going to get any game time.
Whose idea was that to do that kind of model? And what stupid players keep going to do it?
You know, I don't know. Maybe it's just something with the pound notes that are flashed between their eyes, and they all have this ego that they're going to be the one who's going to break through. Yeah,
you'll get 6 figures a week at most clubs you go to if you're decent.
Exactly, it's not like the old days, is it? You know, every Premier League player is making a decent living. I think they probably know that they can get a 7-year contract and be sold after 2. You know.
But no one's having them on their wages. They don't think that far ahead.
No, this is the big problem, isn't it? And this is
they can
this
just
is the problem in football.
To get the wages, can't they?
Yeah, this is what they don't seem to think, that they can't shift. If we can't shift players on the wages we're offering, how they're going to shift them, I don't know. And that's why you'll see.
If we had the Danny Ward problem times 20 players, that's what Chelsea have got.
Yes.
And this is why you see, even on loan deals, you know, they'll want the money off the wages. So they'll expect any loan players to have their wages paid by the club that's loaning them. So the whole model.
Let's go through a high fee because Leicester will probably get a cut.
Well, yeah, true. It's the whole football structure is, you know, I can see PSR, whatever it is. I can see that being thrown out. You know what will happen? We'll be the last club that gets a points deduction.
Yes.
Because the other clubs that they're looking at are much bigger than us, and it'll be restriction of trade. We've got all this money. Why can't we spend it? They'll take them to the High Court. It'll get thrown out. We'll be the last ones who get it, and then it'll be a free-for-all.
I just want to say on that point, Danny Ward would have saved that goal yesterday. Anyway, all I was going to say, and you know my tongue is firmly planted in my cheek with that comment. But one thing that I was hinting at, and neither of you took me up on, with a certain Mr. Chilwell, would we have any interest in him, do you think?
He's a bell end. I don't like him.
I don't think he'd be accepted by the fans based on what his comments afterwards. 2, I don't think we can afford his wages. And we've got enough cover at fullbacks. I don't think we need him, to be honest.
I thought, and this very last time, Christian was like having a new player, wasn't he, yesterday?
Yeah, he really was. The fitness on that guy was unbelievable. Like 87 minutes, I think I watched him. And he was still flying up and down with that same burst that he has. That is some fitness that he's been putting in over the summer. Like, if that's the kind of attitude he brought to Bologna, no wonder they're in the Champions League this year. Like, he was just brilliant. And I know he had a bit of uncontrolled enthusiasm when we first signed him. But I feel like he's become more disciplined for sure, which he would have gotten over in Bologna. And hopefully we can just refine him a bit more. His heart's on his sleeve, and that's what we like to see as fans, really.
I don't know. I missed it at the ground, I must admit. But when I've watched the goal back, if you see his reaction to the goal going in, it's fantastic as well. Sort of fist pumping the crowd, which is great to see from a player who was basically thrown out by the previous manager to come back in and still be ingrained into the club in such a way that he celebrates like that.
And do the fans love him? Do the fans have the fans taken to him?
Love anybody who tries.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you very much, guys. Let's hope we're as happy and smiley on our face next Tuesday, and we might have signed another player before then. Who knows? Zaha, have a word with the tax man. Craig, thank you very, very, very much indeed. Give everybody a shout out as to where they can find you.
Yeah, just find me on X or Twitter, depending on how old you are. Just at Craig Bird.
Brilliant. And Kate?
I'm on Twitter X as well at Kate Blakey 40.
Not saying that's her age or anything like that. If you want to stay on, Kate, because you said you wanted to talk about if you want to talk about what you were saying before. But thank you very much, guys. 7:00 next week. Be there or be square, as they say.
Cheers, guys. See you soon.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much to Kate. Thank you very much to Craig. Two people that know more than I know about football, and what I know about football I could put on the back of a postage stamp. So thank them very much for their attack. Both there last night, and they're going to be our regular team going forward on the Let's Talk Leicester. Tuesdays at 7 now. We're going to be back on Friday. No, we're not. We're going to be back on Thursday at 7:00 with the Fulham preview. Got a Fulham fan lined up. Looking forward to that. It would be so Leicester, would it not, to go out now and lose 5-0 to Fulham or something like that? Surely not. But look, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks to everybody that's been in the chat. Thank you to the mods for being in as well. This has been LTID TV. I've been Chris, and I will be back. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.